If you're an artist, AI art theft is something that you're most likely worried about when it comes to posting your work online on social media or your website. AIs can go and grab any image without consent from any platform and use it to train their models so they can facilitate AI art to any schmo that has access to it and types a prompt into them. So to protect ourselves from that, we luckily have two options so far. One is called Glaze and the other one is called Nightshade. These two can work together or by themselves. You don't have to use both of them. And they're both by the Chicago University, so it's not by any sort of for-profit organization. With Glaze, you can run it either locally on your computer by downloading the file that you find on the bottom of this page, which I'll leave the link to in the description, or you can request an invite to Web Glaze, which is another option for you. But requesting a Web Glaze invitation right now is going to be a long waiting process because they have had an influx of people asking for an invitation ever since Meta announced that they're training their AI with Instagram posts. Ever since then, the Glaze project has been getting flooded by requests, 200 plus every day. So it takes quite a bit for them to get around to all the requests. You can either request it by DM on Instagram or on Twitter, and both of these links will also be in the description below. But there's also another option if you want to use a web-based implementation of Glaze instead of running it on your computer. So for example, if you work on mobile or a tablet, you can use also Kara. In the website, you can click on your profile image, it'll say Glaze, it'll take you to this, and from here you can follow the instructions. However, Kara is temporarily disabled due to an abuse incident, and the team is currently working overtime to solve the server issues. So when it's available, you are able to use it. Again, you just kind of go to your page, click on Glaze, it takes you here, and when the Glaze system is available on Kara, you'll be able to upload your image, have it glazed, and then download it or post it to the service. Same thing if you were to get a Glaze invitation to the actual Web Glaze, you'll come to this website, you'll log in here, it'll allow you to upload an image, it'll apply the glaze, and then you can download it to your computer or device and post it online wherever you want to have it. And those are the only options right now for Web Glaze. Otherwise, again, you can just download it from here and run it locally from your computer. These are pretty big files. They're about 2.5 gigs when you download them, and about 4.6 to 5 gigabytes when you unzip them. If you're on Windows, strongly suggest that you have 7-zip. If you don't have it already, download it, install it, and use this to extract the files, because otherwise without it, it takes forever to unzip. I had to run it through here because with the Windows default unzipping app, it's going to take about an hour or so. So use 7-zip, and in a couple of minutes you'll have it unzipped and ready to go. Once you have it unzipped, you get your folder, corresponding folder for each one of the apps. Nightshade, you download it, you unzip it, and you scroll down to the .exe file. Same thing for Glaze. Scroll down, Glaze.exe file, and I'll show you what those interfaces look like. So this is what Glaze looks like. You can run one or more images at the same time. Depending on your computer, it'll affect how long the process takes. It does give you an estimated time here on the bottom for how long it would take, but that's only an estimation. In my case, if I put it on the slowest, it actually takes about 3 minutes, not 4. I guess it's because of my hardware, which is processor. It's a Ryzen 7800X 3D, and my video card is an NVIDIA 4070 Ti Super. These settings here, the intensity is how much glaze you want to apply to your image. There's low, default, and high. I've tested them and I like default, and I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. Again, this is what the time is going to take for render quality. The more amount of time you allow it to take to render, the better the application of the glaze will be on your work. So you have to kind of take that into account. If you want to have it be a strong application of glaze, then you're going to have to use the slowest process. But if you want to kind of have a lighter glaze, then you can put it faster, but it won't be as effective. Here on the bottom, you click to save as wherever you want to. You can put it on the desktop, select folder, and then it'll have the selected folder on the bottom here. When you first run either one of these, Glaze or Nightshade, there will be an initial download after you open the application just to fetch the necessary files in order for the app to run properly and apply the glaze or the nightshade. In either case, whether you use nightshade and or glaze, it is recommended that you use a PNG file and only after you have done all your edits to your image. So after you run your image through Photoshop or Affinity Photo or what have you, any edit that you want to do, color correction, levels, curves, whatever, do that first and then run it through Glaze. That way you have a better implementation of the protection. It is also recommended that you use a PNG file because PNG files have more information than JPEG and it will give you a better result after that. The software will produce another PNG file. The file size will increase because it has more information on it. The original file here for me was 824 kilobytes. And then when I applied Glaze, it went up to 1.3 megabytes. So there's a substantial increase in size, but if you're posting it on Instagram, it doesn't really matter. I have sent them a DM on Instagram to ask them if I can still run a glazed image through an image compressor for websites. And I haven't gotten a reply yet because again, this is being flooded by DMs. But whenever I get an answer, I'll be posting it on a pinned comment down below because I do use compression for my images so it can load faster on my website. But as far as like posting on Instagram or any other social media, you don't have to worry about image compression because that's done on their end. So yeah, so this is what it looks like. Again, low, default, and high. I choose default, always on the slowest side, and then it'll run your image and it'll take about 3 minutes or so for my setup. It might take more or less for your setup. Nightshade looks very similar with the addition of an extra field in the UI, and I'll show you. So you have this little optional section here which says current tag. This tag will be autofilled whenever you select an image. It only works for one image at a time. If you load up multiple images, then the tag will not be applied to the images. And the reason why it uses a tag is because, like I mentioned before, Nightshade is a poison. And the way that it works is that it'll apply the tag to the image. So if in this case, if I use this image I have here, it's a woman, it'll read the image, see the image, and then it'll tag it as woman. It can only be one word tag per image, not, you can't put like woman under veil. It has to be just the one tag. So then when this image gets cataloged by an AI model as a reference of a woman, then it'll see this image and then the Nightshade application will make it look different. It won't be the woman that you just saw. It may end up looking like a dinosaur with wings. And then the AI will then think that, oh, and a woman can also be a dinosaur with wings. And that's how it works. It'll just look at the tag, the AI will know that it's a woman, and then it'll apply the erroneous details to the generated image after that. The more images that are poisoned, the more effective it becomes and the less accurate the AI models will be, which is a good thing for us. So that way we can combat and try to defeat the AI generated images. Same as Glaze, you have low, default, and high. And the render quality here is a lot longer than before. So instead of having 1, 2, 3, or 4 minutes, you have 5, 10, 15, and 20 minutes. However, since it is dependent on the capabilities of your hardware, if you have a more powerful hardware in your computer, it'll take a lot less than this. In my experience, when I put the slowest option, it only took about 5 minutes, not the 20 minutes, but still 5 minutes for one image. And you don't have to use Nightshade. My plan is going to be to use Nightshade every so often, but Glaze, I'll use it more on every image because I want to make sure that my art won't be copied by any AI model out there. And again, same thing on the bottom. You select where you want to put it, desktop, whatever, and it'll show here. And once you run it, it'll do its thing. And once it's done, it'll tell you, process is done, image has been saved into the output folder. And that's about it as far as what the programs look like. Now here is an example of what an image looks like after it's ran through the different settings of Glaze. So you have DOG, which is the original. It's a scanned image though. I am mostly a traditional artist. This is done on a watercolor paper with some ink wash. And DOG, looks fine. It looks good. On the low setting, there's a little bit of texture that you start to see on the solid area and the solid color area, but not so much on the detailed part. Then on the default, again, you still have some more texture being added to the solid color area. But once again, can barely see it on the detailed part of the image. And then high, very noticeable on the top, on the solid color area, but still not so much on the detailed part. I mean, you can still see it here and there, you know, like there's little noise here on the chin, but nothing that I would consider a deterrent to the experience of looking at my work. And more so that if this is going to help me prevent people from copying it, I don't mind having some noise added to it. That being said though, I do use default as my preferred setting. High is just a little too much, especially since I work predominantly on black paper, and I usually leave a lot of empty spaces because I take advantage of the shadows. Okay, so these are only ran through Nightshade. This is the low intensity, this is the default intensity, and this is the high intensity. And you know, low, nothing going on, not so much. Default, something here, like in this part right here, you have this little line kind of added that's not here. But then on the high intensity, a bunch of stuff happens. Very, very noticeable. I wouldn't use Nightshade in the high setting because it just adds a lot of noise that you can very clearly see in the image. So at that point, I'd rather not. Nightshade on high setting, very disrupting to the viewing experience of your artwork. And maybe not worth it, because why? I mean, it might be worth it for you to poison the well, but beyond that, I don't think that I would use it. If between the high and the low, it took about 5 minutes each. The one for the high intensity took about 7 minutes. So it's a lot more time, a lot more disruption to the actual image. But maybe every now and then, just to pose one of these to fuck up the well and kind of help make AI less reliable. Why not? I would probably do it every now and then, you know? Or post an image on Instagram with all 3 versions, just so that it have 3 different chances at poisoning the well. Not a bad idea. Again, default seems like a good mid-ground for protecting your artwork without making your art look any worse. And here is the same image that we had before, but this time I have one with only glaze, and then glaze and nightshade both on default setting. And as you can see, the default shade, nightshade and glaze together, they don't make that much of a difference to the actual image, so it's not a bad option if you want to be very protective of your work. See, it'll add some noise to it. So there's the original one here in this area, and you have more little noise here and on the top, and then again here at the end, a little more blotches of texture on the background, but on the actual subject of the image is not that noticeable. And with both with the nightshade and with glaze, you're gonna see most of the noise added in any area of the piece that might be a solid color. Over original, nothing really, because obviously that's original. Then default with no nightshade on, so default glaze setting, and then default nightshade setting, and it does add a bit more texture. You can really see that little kind of artifact here. Not so much here. Here it actually looks like if it was just the texture of the paper, and this is the original with the actual paper texture. But again, I'm happy with how it looks on the nightshade version. If anybody's interested in my art, they can contact me and I can provide them with an actual high quality scan of it if they so required. But for protection and to prevent people just grabbing your stuff from the internet and making copies of it, it's not a bad idea. I will probably just stick to glaze by itself and no nightshade. Every so often I'll put a nightshade image. And here's a colored picture with a busy background. This one shows with glaze. I forgot to do it with nightshade as well. But even here, like this is a bit more busy, and on the glaze version with the default setting, not much has changed, if anything at all. I'd be hard pressed to pick anything that is different from this one to this one. Like maybe this part right here, there's these little like lines, kind of like hatchies going on here that are not so present over here. Well, they're a little bit here, but they're more noticeable in this area. But beyond that, there's nothing really different between the two. So it's a good option. So I do hope that this helped. I hope that it made sense along the way. I know that I rambled a little bit here and there, but I tried my best to explain what it was like to use these software and give you all the information that I could find about them. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you found it helpful in any way, please make sure to glaze the like button, maybe nightshade the subscribe button if you want to see more of my content. Next video is going to be about my very interesting interaction with Bing AI and how it tried to look at me through my phone's camera, only to have the system tell it, don't do that. Don't reverse search him. Don't try to see where they live. And it was a wild experience. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.